You're listening to or watching the Talk with Your Mouth Full podcast, a podcast series that features real conversations with real families about mental health and substance use disorders. This episode features a discussion of family values, strategies for discussing difficult or awkward topics, and the influence of media on developing minds. This episode was graciously filmed on location at Ziree Thai in Delray Beach, Florida. We thank Ziree for their incredible food and eagerness to sponsor an episode. We encourage you to check them out if you're ever in the area.
Thank you.
Do we need a minute to look over the menu, or do we know what we want?
We know.
I think you have a sushi bowl, right?
Yes.
We'll chow it down. That's why everybody's hungry. The sushi looks great here.
And can I please have chicken fried rice?
I'm going to have the green curry chicken with white rice.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I'm Teresa. I'm the program director at LSIS. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been doing this for far longer than I care to admit, but it's 20 years. So let's just go around the table. If you girls could tell us age and what grade you're in, that would be great.
I'm Juliet. I'm 12 years old, and I'm in 6th grade.
I'm Annalise. I'm 16 years old, and I'm in 10th grade. I'm Genevieve. I'm 13 years old, and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Dad. I'm 58 years old, and I have 5 children.
And I'm Natalie, and I'm a mom of these 3 beautiful girls.
So we're really just going to have a fairly organic conversation. I am a guest at your dinner table, or you guys are a guest at mine. And I just want to have an open conversation of kind of what's it like raising kids in middle and high school, especially girls. I think there's something unique about having girls versus boys. What's it like for Dad to be the only guy in the house? I'd love to get that perspective because my dad was also the only guy in the house. And then just kind of get a handle on how you guys talk to one another about stress or peers or concerns or things like that. So, but really, let's just relax and enjoy our time. You just had a birthday, so you're still at 15, 16. That's great. It's hard to remember. I'm pretty sure I'm still 24.
Sweet 16.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I trip that up myself. Is she having a party? No party.
No party.
Some practice.
She was,
You got a guitar.
I got a guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, you got a guitar.
Oh, and she was asked if she wanted to. I just want you to know that was she just didn't want to. It's not
Declined
true.
Yeah.
the party. Declined the party.
No, I'm just kidding. I didn't want a party. Just hang out with my friends.
so I think it's great having 3 girls to talk about this subject because I usually drive them to school every morning. That's where I usually get most of my information.
Oh, yeah.
And that way we have really good one-on-one time. And I find that having girls makes it even easier because we like to chat about a bunch of different things. And during that time, they're more likely to tell me about what's going on with school, concerns they have, because their school has done a great job at educating them on these different subjects that we're going to talk about tonight.
Excellent.
And they are very well versed in the fact that if something doesn't sound right or if they're just not sure, depending on how urgent it is, they will either go to a teacher right away, or they could go to a principal or their school counselor. And if it's something that they're not sure if it's that important and they think they can wait until after I pick them up from school and talk with me about it. Or if they forgot about it and they're getting ready to go to bed, they can tell me. That's another time I get a lot of information that they want to discuss.
I've always recommended when I'm working with families, teenagers, certainly with moms and daughters, the time in the car is such an easy time to have the conversation because no one's actually looking at each other.
Yeah.
You know, there's this
Yes.
comfort in you're not looking at me and I'm not looking at you, and it feels natural to talk. And I think it's not an awkward silence when you're pulling up to a red light or something else is happening, and so there's pauses so that it's easier to talk to, especially to a parent, and I think for parents. I don't think as as kids, you guys realize exactly how nerve-wracking it can be for parents to figure out how to help or what to ask or what to tell, you know.
But I think for parents, the one thing that's at my age I'm starting to realize is I haven't forgotten what it was like to be young. And I remember all my firsts, and I remember all my encounters. And when I'm talking to my girls, I remember how heavy certain things were.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the silence and just there's trust and there's love and we have faith in each other. And the truth is that if it's weighing on them and you don't push or anything like that, that's the space where it comes out.
Yeah.
And once they start feeling, and then they just blurt it out. And the best thing that I've noticed, because we've both, we've gone both ways, is, oh, thank you very much, is don't overreact. Because the truth is that you shut off that precious moment of, I'm about to reveal something that's weighing on me. What do you mean? Or and
make
you can't
no sudden movements.
because of just exactly what you said. We're adults. We're on a hair trigger. We love our kids. We're trying to protect them. It's an unkind world in certain ways. And then all of a sudden we hear something, and our worst nightmare comes to our mind. But that's not it. I just want to express it.
Yeah.
And life is what it is, and you have to deal with it. And they have to learn now in their firsts about the example of how you deal with stuff when it comes up.
Yeah. Well, and I think high school is a transition time, as is middle school, but like this is where you're constantly assessing where's their judgment at. You know, what's the decisions I can leave for them, and which ones do I feel I need to intervene, right?
What's the one thing I always say to you guys when I leave you?
Make good choices.
There you go.
Be good girls.
God bless.
My dad always used to say, and you say it in Portuguese, juiz na cabeça, which is use good judgment. Use good judgment every day, all the time. That's what he would say.
They're
every
your
time.
choices. Exactly. And that's at the point you learn that's the most important thing. It's one of the best things anyone's ever said to me.
How do you guys feel about, like, do your parents give you enough, like, do you feel like they leave you enough room to make your own decisions?
I think they do, and if you feel like, I think we make a lot of our decisions, not necessarily on our own, like we make decisions every day, but if there's like bigger decisions, I'll usually talk to my parents about it, and they always give me the room to make my own decision, but they like kind of guide me to.
Yeah, if you're like not sure.
Yeah.
Who do you go to, mom or dad?
Don't do this. One of them's gonna get mad.
Are they really?
Yeah.
No.
Usually my mom, because when we're driving to school, like.
Well, yeah, she's got that window of time.
Yeah.
Poor dad.
Oh no, I go to my dad.
Doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't bother me at all. I come from 5 as well, but it was all brothers. I was the youngest of 5. So I know boys really well. So I'm
a little fish out of water
hypercritical.
here.
Well, no, girls love their dad, and I love my daughters. And the thing is that we've got phenomenal relationships. But you know what I mean. I also know what they're going up against. You know, the enemy is not boys. I mean, boys are just the opposite sex.
Yes.
But I have all these beautiful daughters and stuff, and
Beautiful
I
teenage
just
girls.
I have to deal with that and talk to them.
Yeah, there's a certain patriarchy we all have to navigate and figure out our way through. And the world it's a scary place to send off young, beautiful teenage girls.
But I say it all the time. You make good choices. No, and the thing is, you are the prize, and never lower your value system of yourselves, because I don't want anybody doing that. People are looking for that little kink in the armor, and the truth is you gotta represent for yourself, your values, and also for your family. So this is why they go.
And that's that.
Okay.
The girls are like, move on. So tell me about your school. Like, is it a big school? Do you have a lot of kids in your class?
It's a pretty small school. The middle school is smaller than the high school, but there's like 100 people in a grade.
Oh, okay. That's still a good size.
Yeah.
It's kind of in the middle.
I mean, there's two campuses. One campus is pre-K through senior year of high school, and then
So you have one campus that goes pre-K through high school.
and then the one we go to,
Yeah?
us two, is pre-K through 8th grade.
Oh, okay. So I see that sometimes in some public schools. There's the K through 5 elementary setup, and then there's the K through 8. And what I've noticed is that in the K through 8 schools, those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, I find to be maybe a little bit more naive than the ones that are just in the 6th, 7th, and 8th middle schools. I don't know if that's because of the size, because 6th, 7th, and 8th is a bigger school. I like to think that you have those 3 years where you're the big fish in the pond. You know, even at 6th grade, you're the big fish, whereas in a 6th, 7th, and 8th, at the 6th grade, you're the guppy, you know, and there's the anxiety of that.
I totally agree with that. And the truth is that leadership years, it's the shared resources and the interaction with the younger kids that puts you on track to where you are becoming a young adult, and your role models, if they're good role models, are trying to project to these kids, because these guys love interacting with little kids, and they think that they're the adult.
Yeah,
and they like that idea.
That leadership role.
And I think that's a great part of growing up.
Thank you.
Is that idea of I'm setting an example and I'm representing for what the right way for an older person to deal with a younger person, and they will model that. And if it's a good representation, then that person will have a good representation of what the right thing to do is when it's their turn.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm a big proponent of that.
As a parent, you have to decide when to have which conversation, right? Like, when do you bring up? So she's in the 6th grade. So for us, and I'll explain to you girls a little bit about kind of what we do at LSIS. So we go to schools, and our philosophy is that if we give kids credible information from credible sources, they can make good decisions. And the example with that is, vast majority of students, if you ask them about their attitudes towards cigarette smoking, they all have negative attitudes and very little curiosity and very little interest in trying it. And that's just because we put out so much education about how dangerous they were. So once they knew cigarette smoking was bad for you, we saw a generation of kids just pass on, this isn't good.
Right.
And so now, of course, we have the vapes, so those are causing their own set of issues. So at LSIS, what we do is we have specific programs where we go into schools and we teach kids about, one, how addiction develops and why a developing brain is at risk. And then we talk to you about the different substances to help you understand how it impacts your mind, your body, and your psychology.
Right.
And then we have prevention speakers who share their story. But for the 6th grade, so 4th and 5th grade, we teach about vaping, because that's the one that's most relevant. And then we hold off other topics for much later because it's not quite relevant. So how do you guys take the lead in asking the girls what they get exposed to, or do you guys come home like the first time you heard of vaping?
Well, I think we've always kind of known, maybe not about vaping, but like from ads and stuff, like you always know about cigarettes and stuff because you like see people in public doing it. I don't think we've been exposed to it because like it's on social media and stuff, like there's always information about that.
Yeah.
But like we've never done that. So, but if we're exposed to anything like in our actual lives, I usually tell my mom about it, but that hasn't really happened that much.
Not to tattle, just be like, what just happened.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I think for kids there's a certain, it shifts, right? There's the tattling phase, and then it gets to, and you're probably the one who's experiencing it more, that the kids say it all the time, snitches get stitches. You know, like this whole, like, you're a horrible person if you expose this to an adult.
There's like Sorry. There's like a difference between snitching just to get someone in trouble and like telling, snitching on someone to like
Get them
for
help.
their safety. Yeah.
Well, we teach the little kids it's the telling versus tattling, right? You know, there's tattling when you just want to get someone in trouble, when you're bringing an adult into a problem that you could solve on your own. And then there's telling, where this problem is way bigger than I can do on my own, and someone's in trouble, right? That's when you tell. How do you guys determine when it's something you should tell your mom or dad?
Well, personally, my friends, I've never had any. I really haven't had something where I was like a really big issue that I felt like I really needed my parents' help, but like middle school drama sometimes. Like I experience it with my friends, so I'll try to help them through it. But if it gets to the point where I feel like it needs to be something that has to be like reported to the office or something, I tell my mom about it, and then we like try to figure out solutions with my friends. And then if that doesn't work, then we go to the office and we like.
Does mom help you and your friend find the solution, or do you and mom brainstorm how you can go back and help your friend?
Kind of both.
So scary. How do you determine when you're going to intervene with the school?
And the parents.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, we call the parents.
If they're
We
a
talk
parent,
to them.
yeah.
And
If-
sometimes you don't
yeah.
get a good response.
No.
They run away from it as
Yeah.
much as anything. And it's, you know, the whole point is yes.
Thank you.
I have another miso soup.
It's for you. It's for you. I think if we know the parents and we feel comfortable talking with them, we'll always do that first.
Yeah.
But sometimes if there are parents that we just don't know how they would respond, or if we don't know them at all, and we think it's really important, then we would reach out to the school counselor.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened very often. Most of the time we're able to just talk about it amongst our family. Sometimes I'll go and get advice from my husband, or even talk to the other girls and try to put it all in perspective, and we kind of bounce things around. And sometimes, you know, I don't make the right decisions. Like, that happens sometimes, and I have to come back after talking with my husband and say, you know, thought about it again, and maybe this would be a different approach.
Yeah.
And so very rarely do we need to go to the
that's
school. Yeah, very
I think
rarely.
that I come from a really big family. Well, I have a big family. But I grew up from Irish. There's a lot of people that have big families.
Yeah, because
So I've been
sometimes the
seeing-
extended family
Exactly.
is also very
So
close.
I've seen a lot of things go over, and I see how it goes wrong.
Yeah.
And so we disagree sometimes, not because this is really relevant, we need to jump in, but I'm like, no, our kids are our priority. I never saw Power Games as much as I
No,
see.
it's very much a girl phenomenon in middle school. There's not enough money to make me go back to middle school. I'm just saying. Never. It's a tough time. It's a tough time. I think school counselors face that a lot too. Like when they have to call parents and they get that resistance. Yeah. Well, therapists certainly do, but I always worry about the poor school counselors. I think they're in a tough spot.
Right.
Today we did presentations for about 800 students just today. So Friday I was at a middle school and we did presentations for 600 I was there for 600 students. And I always talk about, like, where do you go when you're at school to get help? Right? Because I think that's kind of what we're talking about here is, what does asking for help look like? And where do you go? Because there's a certain point, and I would imagine for you, like this is probably at 16 you're a sophomore. So I think that is the hard time to figure out, you know, do I stay here with me or do I have to ask for help?
What would you do if you were at school and you heard something really, really, like, potentially dangerous?
I don't think the first thing I would do was go to the office, because I wouldn't want to make a big deal out of nothing. So sometimes I usually, if something like that happens, I usually talk to you about it and just ask you. And there have been a few times where I kind of over-dramatize stuff in my head. And
Over-dramatize? Well, what else could you do if I wasn't there with you and you really believe something not good was happening
well,
and
if I
you
like
needed
thought it
to
was
help
like
someone?
an actually dangerous situation, then I would tell the office.
Or,
Talk to the person if I was close with them.
okay, or,
Okay, we're not looking, it's not a pop quiz, girls. Mom's literally just trying to get an idea of how you guys decide, right? And if the answer is no, Mom, I'm not gonna come to you for a while, I'm gonna do these things first. I think that's valuable info. It's
Yes.
not ideal.
I feel like it depends on the situation because sometimes I feel like I can, if it's not too big, I feel like we can handle it on our own. Yeah.
what if it's a really big problem and you really believe something bad is going to happen?
Like what?
You could
Well, like,
go
what's
to
the
your teacher.
non-negotiables? The like, oh shoot, now I definitely have to tell an adult.
I usually talk to my mom.
Or, what else could you do? If you were at school, just a safe person. Who would a safe person be? An
Probably-
adult that you could go talk to in confidence.
Guidance counselor?
Or
My history teacher.
your teacher.
Last year.
Or just a
I've never
loved
talked
him.
to my teacher about stuff like that. Because
I think it varies from kid to kid and school to school, right? So like sometimes I've had kids say it's the coach. I've had people say it's the janitor, right? Like because that just happens to be the person they talk to. I don't know. Maybe they get
Trust.
locked out of their locker more often, and that's who they need all the time. It's trust and
It's a matter of
comfort.
rapport and trust, and
Yeah.
who you know is, you get that feeling. There's
Yeah.
a vibe.
yeah, I mean, I really love my teachers, but I feel like if I tell them about that, then they would just tell the office anyways. They don't usually do stuff about it. They just tell the guidance counselor. So it's just
well, that's fine. Just as long as you're telling a safe adult,
Yeah.
so that they can help decide.
Got a napkin.
Right. They can help you sort it out and keep everyone safe.
So then maybe this isn't an issue among the three of you because it looks, I mean, they're very close in age. And so, Martin, you had siblings. And Natalie, did you have siblings too?
I had a younger brother.
One younger brother. So I had an older sister. And we have prevention speakers. So these are people in recovery who go in and share their story. And part of, for at least a couple of them, part of their story is having looked up to their siblings and wanting to emulate them. And, if you've got a sibling who's really on track and has good judgment and good values, that's great, but that's not always
Right.
the way it goes.
In this dynamic right here, she's the most tied in emotionally intelligent. She's the one who watches every episode of Friends like 5 times each. She just literally understands a lot of stuff about social and everything like that.
Yeah.
And these guys do. I don't say it too much, but they do look, because she knows style, she knows cadence, music, all these
plugged
things.
in.
Yeah, she's very, very plugged in and hip and all these things. And so her advice, but sometimes I get a little worried about it because where's her advice coming from? It's coming from the writers of. And, just look at the way that you
She's
see
like,
that.
"Wait a minute."
She said, me? Wait a minute. Just saying. You're
Where
very
do you
dramatic.
go for help? Like, where do you go to get advice?
my mom, or I go to my friends. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm supposed to say that because
No, that's okay.
I've told them stuff I've heard sometimes, and I guess that would be called spreading rumors. But I have good friends, so we give each other advice. So that's usually actually the first person I talk to.
Yeah, you
my
check.
friends.
Well, and that sort of developmentally, that's appropriate, right? This is the age where that's going to happen. Your first place is with your friends.
I feel sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I feel like friends, I do that, but like I feel like sometimes their advice they give is like
terrible.
yeah. Sometimes it's like I don't know the word, like bias maybe. They either just want to get them in trouble, or like if they like them, they don't want them, or like, I don't know, maybe they're not, because they haven't really experienced as much as like my mom. I don't know.
We've actually been talking, I've been talking to her and to you. My first memories of friendship come from 6th grade.
But that is a fundamental gender difference, actually. So that is common among boys. Girls are different.
I know.
Girls have...
I know.
Yes, as you've come to see. But middle school is the time where research shows that girls, this is when girls start kind of competing with one another. Yeah. And competing over, whether it's femininity or athletics. I mean, and then you get the drama, right? I was in a 5th grade class a few weeks ago, and like one little girl asked a question, and it was like, well, what happens if someone in the class just doesn't want to play with you and then no one does? And I was like, oh, this is a problem. And then another girl goes, what if you just don't like that person? I was like, okay. I'm like,
Smackdown.
What is happening? And like one little kid goes, it's 5th grade, we got a lot of drama. Yeah. And I was like, wow. But I think for girls, that's what happens, right?
And the social part of being is that not only, like when we were younger, they have social media and all this context and flow and rhythm and words and stuff, and it fills them up, and you see it regurgitated all the time. And it's so sophisticated, it's like an episode sometimes of a show. And it's like, I don't know if that's right or wrong. But it's so congruent. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's why they're doing it, because they're putting themselves in like a little bit of a modeling something that seemed really cool at the moment, and now that's what's becoming them. And I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I'm confronted with all the time.
Well, I think part of it is like you've got social media influence. They don't over dramatize, but there is a certain amount of glorifying or saturating this notion of kids are getting high, or kids are doing this, or kids are partying, and how do you as parents kind of monitor all of that? I mean, half the time people are like, have you seen this show yet? I'm like, no, I'm still repeating.
Well, and also it's in contrast to the values sometimes that I grew up with. I've always been confronted with different things, and sometimes I coalesced into like, yeah, it's okay, I'm okay with it. But it was me growing into it rather than these voices coming at and congruently saying, this is this. And I'm just like, I'm appalled by some of the things I see young kids being exposed to. And it's not just some kids. The worst end of it is, the worst case is her watching somebody post stuff about a 6th grader committing suicide.
I want to see you watch.
And
you brought it up. Excellent. Because I totally wanted to bring it up, but I didn't know where we're at. So, have you seen it?
Yes. I think we should go around the table and name our favorite characters.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
So, did you guys watch with him?
No.
Oh, no.
She's the one I watched it.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
We've never watched it.
I haven't. She's the only one that has.
No,
I
haven't
don't even know
watched
what it is.
It's a show.
It's about this girl named Rue, and it's her life in high school.
And who's your favorite character on that show? Tell us about the show.
So I'm going to help you out.
Honestly, Cassie's sister.
Okay.
What's her name?
I'm going to help you out.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you.
I'm going to help you out. So this is a show that came out, and in fairness to her, the way that it was marketed, it was really unclear if this was for adults only or if it was for high schoolers, because the whole show is about high schoolers. So it seems a little odd that we're making a show about teens and not expecting that teens would want to watch. However, they're doing a lot of drugs in this high school.
A lot.
They're doing an obscene amount of drugs in this high school.
Wow.
So it's a great opportunity to actually have the conversation. And I can send you some resources too to help you with that, so that you can kind of go through that. And I will say, as far as a storyline goes, it's a captivating story. It is about a high school student who has become addicted to drugs following her father's death. So she is struggling emotionally. Her dad is sick. The family's all trying to figure things out. And she ends up getting addicted to drugs. And it escalates pretty significantly. But she's surrounded by the world's most dysfunctional friends whose priorities are completely out of whack. So it is actually not for you. It is an opportunity, if you guys watch it together, to talk about
Together?
Okay, well,
I'm just kidding. But like,
maybe not the last episode, because that's not
Wait,
what
I
you
don't
should
remember.
watch with your parent. The play. So don't watch that with them.
I watched that.
You guys watch it on your own first.
Now
and
we
then
really
you
want to
can
watch it.
You can kind of come back and like find out from her, like, what are the characters that she's horrified by? Because I'm sure there are
Jacobs.
ones.
Wait, is that his name? Nate.
Okay, she knows enough.
Oh, so you do know the
I
show.
haven't watched it, but it was like
You watched the last show.
I watched
That's
the last
upsetting.
episode of the second season because that isn't where all the drugs were. It was like a play. It was like really funny because it was just a bunch of girls like chasing each other.
Thank you.
So I just want to say at this, because this is a learning moment for me.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I hate all this stuff. I really do. And I the first time, they won't know it, and I hope they never watch it. It was actually a very good movie. It was.
Oh yeah.
And I remember how
You told us to watch it.
drawn. I did not. No.
What is it
you know
about?
why? Because when I came away from it, I was a really, really hard time in my life and stuff like that. And I remember going over, and I came to a realization because I really thought high, and I had to explain. It was really just a romanticization of suicide, and the idea that there was something noble about a kid because he couldn't be in a frickin' play, and he wanted to show his parents, and I'll show them by committing suicide, and it's a noble act. I was floored at what people were selling me at that time. And I was like, I have to protect my kids from this. Because you know what? These people that are writing this are looking for effect and draw. It is all just bait to get them to watch.
And it's worse today. This show is definitely mature content, but it is an opportunity to learn about her judgment and learn about her values in contrast to what's on there. Because this is really, when I listen to the stories of our prevention speakers, one of the themes that's all the way across the board is they talk about how their attitudes towards alcohol and marijuana all shifted based on how their friends' values shifted.
Right.
You know, and so it's important to kind of, I think I often guide people with, rather than, you know, I think we shelter our kids for as long as we humanly can. And when you can't, you want to help them navigate that transition in these questionable values. I mean, you will be horrified at the behavior of the kids on this show, and you want to learn which ones she's also horrified by. You also want to be able to tell them, like, look, I recognize that is insane. I mean, I don't know any high school that's in the condition of that. I think it's insane. But it's worth having the conversation. What surprised you in the show the most?
I'm surprised. Well, I was surprised with Cassie.
She's the blonde one.
Yeah.
What surprised you about Cassie?
What surprised you?
Because she's crazy. I don't remember. I kind of watched it a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. They're going to come out with another season, and there'll be a resurgence of their behavior, right? Of all the behavior of the kids on the show. What was the stuff that you? Yeah, I mean, like, what was this? Like, I watched it and was like, I never had any of these kinds of kids in my high school. And when you watched it, what was the stuff that you were like surprised by?
Their outfits, I was surprised. Like,
Yeah, that's what surprised you the most.
Oh no, that is a valid answer. That is a valid
Oh yeah,
answer.
there's like no dress code at the school.
I remember
I've seen,
like
clips of it.
like the best part of that show is like the part where like Cassie woke up at 4 a.m. every morning, and then on TikTok there would be like the sound, like, oh, you probably don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't
but
remember.
That was my favorite.
I don't think it's good that that was the most surprising part of the show to you.
I don't know. What is the most surprising part of the show to you?
I haven't watched it, but I know, like, my friends
I haven't watched it, but
my friends watched it in 6th grade, and they would, like, tell everyone about it because it was, like, traumatizing. Like, there are scenes where there's, like, a locker room full of boys with their ding-dongs out.
Oh wait, I don't remember this part.
I'm
Like
glad.
I said, you should watch it. I will help you if you want to have this conversation after you've seen it.
Family movie night.
No, I think mom and dad should watch it so they can have their own emotional reaction first.
Okay.
And you can be sheltered from that reaction.
Sorry.
It is a great kickoff to, you know, all right, you guys got to tell me what are you thinking so that you can get a sense of it. When I do our parent presentation, our parent presentation is all about helping families figure out what are the signs for when I should have which conversation. And so this show, the fact that she's certainly seen it, is there you go. There's an indicator. Okay, so now we have to have a deeper conversation because it does introduce more than just alcohol and marijuana. Now we're talking about much more dangerous substances. So kind of opening up that to.
And this is why I don't even want to watch it. You know,
I know.
These guys have known this. I go to Fort Lauderdale where I grew up. And it is just a drug hole now of just aimless, endless fentanyl addiction and two
It's
kids.
not only there. There's
No, I
a lot
know,
of places
but I'm saying
everywhere.
this
But
is
when you
where
go back to your neighborhood,
I've had to call the police twice with foam coming out of mouth with a perfectly fine 21-year-old kid, or maybe he's 18, who's dead in front of me. Everybody's screaming. You got all these homeless people around him. And the thing, he's got tattoos on his neck and stuff. And I'm like, how did this happen?
How did this happen? When was
Could
that?
It's happened twice. I was waiting for her for a swim. And what's the name of the bread place that we go to? They have 3 schools really close, and a lot of parents go there while they wait for olders and stuff. And I was waiting for her for a swim. All of a sudden, everybody screams and ran back. I thought it was a gun or something.
Oh.
And I ran towards it because obviously there was all these kids and moms. So I ran over it and I found this boy who had just died of fentanyl.
And what would you guys do if you saw somebody that was on the floor looking like they had a seizure?
No.
You call
If it's
911 or go to, like,
Call 911.
find someone.
Right.
if it's like really, I don't really know.
And if it looks like it's somebody who's like vomiting, you can turn them on their side, but that's about as much as you should do as a child, I think.
I feel
So
like
that-
if they're not harming
And call
anyone,
911.
if I was on my own at this age, I would probably just.
What?
Wait, I'm so confused.
If you saw someone dying on the street.
Oh, then I would call 911. I would call 911. Oh, wait, I didn't understand.
Get to a safe place, call 911. Find an adult.
Right.
You can always try to turn them on their side if they look like they're vomiting.
You don't even need to do
But
that.
you
Just get an
don't-
adult to do that and tell them that if it's a drug overdose, you need Narcan really quick. And that's what I called for because it's the only way to save them. Twice this has happened.
Twice.
In Fort Lauderdale, yeah.
Wow.
Not at the same place. Once was down by Los Olas. There's just all these zombies walking around. And you're like, these kids are not that far away from being somewhere like kids growing up.
Yeah.
And where did they get access to the tools to actually self-destruct, which is really what this is, in such a huge way? And I have to think that if they didn't have proper guidance from parents, church, community, neighbors, then they find it online and they find it in movies and stuff, and they try and transfer what that is to create something. And I don't even watch TV anymore. I just don't. I can't.
I just keep watching reruns of old shows too.
Well, I have a question because I've heard people talk about and I had no idea what it was about, and it didn't sound like it would be something to interest me, but I didn't know it had all this content.
Yeah.
So how do you get your children to kind of come to you and talk to you about these things that they're seeing or hearing when you don't really know what to look out for?
So I think it's one of those things where, as adults, I think we're expecting too much if we think they're going to come to us and tell us they're watching something that's a little, forbidden. I think we're expecting too much. I think where we stand a chance is when you finally learn of something that's controversial or questionable, you check in and you just say, hey, here's what I heard, right? Have you heard of it? And, please let me know truthfully, have you seen it? Okay, tell me, and then, all right, I'll watch it too, and then we'll talk, right? So she was never going to come and tell you, honestly, it just slipped.
Yeah,
Poor thing.
sorry.
No, thank you.
That's okay.
Because I've written worksheets for I'm sure a lot of kids at your school have been watching. And that's the reality, right? And so it is one of those things you don't feel like you can go home and tell your parents because they're going to be upset and say, you're not allowed to watch that. And you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, I can still see it. And then the conversation gets shut down. And that's not what you want, right? It's much better to talk to mom about, these are like, who in the show would you be friends with? Because here's the thing I would want to know. Would you help Rue? Or would you say, I can't be friends with her?
Don't look at me like that. We kind of.
It's a question.
Well,
There's no right or wrong
this.
answer.
So one of my other friends, recently, she was going through stuff, and I was like, well, I should invite her, and we should hang out just to so she has a safe place, and I can be there for her.
Rue or your friend?
No, my friend. Okay. And my mom was like, that's such a good idea. We should do that. Blah blah blah. And then my dad was like,
No.
He was like, no, you don't want to collect broken people. Honestly, sorry, Dad. I would help her.
So that's great. You can say that. Completely different thing. I don't know this person. I don't know what the drama's coming from. I don't want people at my door. This is my family, and you are my responsibility. And I said the same thing with, you wanted to go to a girl who seems wonderful and stuff, but I don't know her parents. I don't know anything, and you can't go to LA with her until we feel real comfortable. That's the way that I go with your mom. We have enough here. We can't take more in until we know more about it. And I don't want, this empathy and this goodness can lead us down. I have a different situation, and it has to come up right now because of what we're talking about.
Sure.
I am the youngest of 5.
Yeah.
I come from a very broken home. Incredibly, all my brothers are dead from drug and alcohol. My sister and I are the only ones basically alive. So I was sent away to a boarding school, and then there was other reasons why other kids were there. So I have a lot of first-hand touch and reference to the destructive nature. And if you want to help people, you can't help them until you truly know who they are. We can be nice, you can be nurturing, you can bring them, we can do it. But it's let's get in and adopt this person and make it our thing. I can't see it until I see it.
So, all right, so that really brings up so how much do you guys know about what Dad's family was like growing up? He's lost his siblings.
We know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dad is bringing up a really good point, right? How do you know when to help and when you have to distance yourself, right? Because one of the things you see is everyone who keeps trying to help her in that show is failing miserably. She doesn't want it. And she's hurting everyone who keeps trying to help her. And yet you want to be helpful. What do you see as being the thing that would be helpful, right? Because that's what Dad's trying to figure out. How can I help them be empathic and helpful without losing themselves?
Well,
What do you think?
Ooh,
I think in middle school, people can be dramatic sometimes.
Yes.
Developing minds or whatever. So I've had a few friends that I'm not really close with, but they're they don't have a lot of social boundaries, and they'll just kind of bring stuff up that's sounds really dark, and I'm okay, I don't know you that well, so I'm not gonna I can give you advice and try to help you, and I can listen to you, but there's not a lot I can do because I don't really
Okay.
So
Adopting a
I'll
little of
listen
Dad's
to
philosophy.
them talk to me, and I'll if I really think it's serious, I'll try to get them help, but if I don't really know them, then
Okay, so you've got a little bit of Dad's philosophy. You know, I have to get to know the person enough to know what to do to help. Okay, so what do you think?
I think you don't know what, like, you never know what anyone's going through. So just be nice to them. I don't want to have to get to know them in order to be helpful.
Well, but when would you see I can't help anymore? Like, how do you decide? You know, we have a speaker who on Friday was just sharing with his middle school class that, you know, he never wanted to use drugs. He would say, I'm not going to use drugs. I'm just not going to. And then as he got older, his friends started to act like drugs and alcohol weren't a big deal. And at first he was really uncomfortable, like trying to tell them, like, you shouldn't do that. And then after a while, he realized he was the only one saying that.
But I feel like on social media, at least for me, I know it's different for like other people, of course, but I feel like no one's I feel like there's more people discouraging people from like drugs and alcohol, because I actually see that a lot of people discouraging people, like people that don't drink and smoke, they're like looking up to them.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, but
It's reassuring.
Yeah.
The lifeline.
But like I have some friends from swim that go to other schools, and like I do hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I feel like obviously most of the world is telling like kids and stuff like don't do drugs, don't give into peer pressure, don't like stuff like that, and it's like it's not that easy. Like I've never done anything like that, but like when I'm younger and you get like the guidance counselor comes into your room, she's like, it's not good to exclude people, it's not good to be mean to people, like never do that. And you're like, I'll never be mean to anyone, you know, like I'm gonna be inclusive of everyone. And you can say it, but it's kind of like as you get older you don't really mean to, but like sometimes like you just do. And then as you get older, like there can be situations where like peer pressure, you're always like don't give in to peer pressure, but if all of your friends are doing it and they're all like making fun of you for not doing it, then it feels like your world's gonna end if they don't like you.
The truth is, adults are telling you don't do drugs. It's not always your
I've never done
peers.
drugs, by the way. That's just
Yeah. I'm not using drugs. So that's where you have to kind of look at this. So when we talk about this shift in friends, right, and talking about the shift in values, right? So our speaker shared at this point of his life, he never wanted to do drugs. Neither did his friends. Then they got a little older, and now some of his friends, their value system shifted a little, and now alcohol was, you know, I guess it's not that big of a deal, and now he has to decide, right? He's got to make a decision here. Am I going to stand by that? Am I going to evolve, right? He chose to evolve into what his friends valued, and then the next thing you know, he gets to the next phase of, okay, so over here we thought it wasn't a big deal, but over here now we're thinking of using, right? We're thinking of getting together and drinking. So over here the decision was, do I still not want to do it? Yes, I still don't want to do it, but it's not that big of a deal. Now over here, okay, it's not that big of a deal and maybe we want to try it, right? It keeps changing because he has to keep making a decision. So there is a phenomenon called decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is, they did research, and what they found was the more you have to make a decision about, let's say it's the same issue, drugs and alcohol, right? The more you have to decide, I'm not going to do drugs. The more times you have to decide yes or no to drugs, the longer you do that, the more you have to make that decision, you get tired and it gets easier to make the wrong decision because you're just exhausted from doing it, right? So it's a matter of looking at that, and then part of how that happens is when you don't evolve your friend group to match your value system, and instead you adjust your value system to your friend group, right? And then that becomes the problem, which is what you see in the show, right? They adjust their value system to their friend group. So I'll give you a little trivia. So in 1994, you remember the episode where Chandler he admits to his friends he's a smoker?
Yeah.
And they all make fun of him?
I mean, I'm pretty sure not to. It's like he was always a smoker, and then he quit, and then he started like smoking again. And They were just trying to get him to quit.
And the friends were trying to get him to quit, and so they treated him like a social pariah, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out when they aired that show, kids' attitudes towards cigarettes made a massive dip, and it became more negative. That was a pivotal time.
Yeah,
that one show made such a difference to changing teen attitudes.
There's this, I asked Jenny. There's this person named, he's famous on like YouTube and TikTok and social media.
Of course he is.
Come on, Dad, you gotta stay with it.
And all my friends know who he is.
Yeah.
And his big thing is like, excuse my language, he's saying frick vape, and he has merch for it, and I see all these people wearing it.
Okay, so we have a social media influencer that's doing a positive influence.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
That's it.
See, Dad, it's okay.
I don't think there's enough education about what vaping does to the lungs, and I don't think people really understand.
Once we were having a seminar in middle school, it was with the security guards, and they were like talking about vaping and stuff, and I just remember this. Some kid goes, so is like breathing in essential oils from a diffuser the same thing as vaping? And she said yes.
Wait, I do that though.
I just wanted to tell you that.
It gives you the buzz.
Well, no, I just sometimes I have a
stimulant.
humidifier and I like.
Yeah, like if you just like no, he literally said like, what if I
Trying to eat the
just stand
smell.
next to my diffuser and breathe
So
it?
here's the fundamental difference is that the diffuser doesn't contain the addictive substance. So yes, doing that isn't good for you. But you could do that one day and then never do it again.
Yeah, what?
But if you're vaping with nicotine, then you end up absorbing the chemical that now makes you do it repeatedly, over and over and over again.
Vaping actually is like a catalyst for a much deeper nicotine high. And nicotine's not like an alcohol high or anything like that, but it's extremely addictive.
Very addictive. So then, all right, so let's open this up and have you guys ask Mom and Dad questions.
What?
It's my favorite time. Oh, come
Dad,
on.
have you ever done drugs?
I have.
What made you want to ask them?
You asked if we could ask questions.
Yes, but why is that the question you chose?
Because I don't know, like they've just been they always tell.
Yeah, they're
not
always
to
like,
do
you
drugs."
don't do drugs, but what about you? Like,
So you want to get, but what does learning about, like Dad gave you the yes/no answer, right? But there's more to learn there, right? So what would be the next thing? You asked, you got a yes or no. And you know, I'm a therapist, that's never enough of an answer for me. So what's the next thing to
I have a
find
good
out
one.
from Dad?
Did it involve peer pressure?
Good.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
How old are you?
No. And the reason why is it was peer pressure in a way that I never said succumb to peer pressure. I was a jock. I went to a boarding school and I never did drugs. But when I was in Amsterdam, I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. But the truth is that I got so paranoid, and I want you guys to know that it's very personal. And you are my genes, and that's why I don't drink, and I don't want you guys to go it, because it alters your state in a way that's completely uncomfortable. And there's no reason. You've got the genetics to be high-spirited, good thinking, and focused and stuff like that. To go into any drug to change your balance, to run away from what you already have, it's a terrible thing, and it causes despondency, at least with our family, and I've seen it with my family. You don't need that. And the crazy thing is, we haven't spoken here, is that even more so than when we were children, when I was growing up, the power of victimhood and accumulating your victim stripes is absurd, and you don't need any. You got to be above that, and you got to think through that. So people do all this self-destructive stuff just so they can have a story about the hardships that they've gone through. And I don't ever want to see my children go through that because there's no reason for it. And I tell people very emphatically, yes, I did, so that I can get to the part there. It does nothing. All it does is change your state, allows you to, same thing with alcohol, allows you to run away, and it's something that'll hook you in a way that you just keep going back to, and it's just creates despondency and depression.
I think what you brought up too is like just the family genetics.
Yeah.
Like the importance of them really understanding the vulnerability of that. Now, the fact I'll tell you guys is that the younger someone is when they first try a substance, the more likely they are to develop an addiction. And your brain is, and that's just because your brain is still developing until you're 25 years old. So after 25, you're less susceptible. But after 25, you know what else isn't quite so influential?
Your friends.
Yeah, peer pressure.
Yep. You have to get through this, right? You got to get through that phase.
Or maybe never do it.
That's an idea, but you still got to figure out how am I going to navigate peer pressure.
I feel like it's hard.
Or you could just like not go to parties and just like be like me and not go like have life.
Because no one invites her to anything.
So says the girl doesn't even drive
True.
yet, right?
Oh, it's right around the corner.
Yes, it is.
No, I should be, but I waited to get my permit.
Yeah, you should have been driving.
I don't think you have to choose not going to parties. I think you kind of have to choose.
What's the point of going to? Oh, never mind.
If you're not doing drugs and alcohol.
I think you have to
Nothing.
choose who you're
No, that's what
going
you just were
with.
saying.
Yes.
You have to
You know,
choose.
Mom's right. I mean, she's right. You could throw the baby out with the bathwater and never go. Or you have to learn the boundary setting that's involved. I mean, your friends really should be perfectly fine if you say that's not for me. But at the same time, if her value is I don't want to be around people who are behaving that way, that's good too.
Right.
Yep.
But the way that I always try and approach it is, you be the leader. You set the example. People are watching you in a room representing and saying, how should I act? Because they're confident, you've got some charisma, and you seem like you've got things going. You might not think so. Other people are. There's always people in the room that like you and think highly of you. And the way that you act is the way that they're going to say, I'll try that, because that's leadership as well.
I don't know, like, because I've only seen like dramatic high school movies.
Yes.
But I feel like parties, everyone says they're so fun, but
Yeah, they're
I
like,
mean, I feel like
The truth is, I'll be honest with you, and I can certainly share my own personal experience. Sometimes those parties are scary.
yeah, they seem scary.
Yeah, you know, like if you're not engaging in any of that, it feels really overwhelming and a little scary. Like somebody might get hurt, and I'm gonna be stuck here. My parents are probably gonna get mad at me if they find out that's been happening. Right? There's like it feels very chaotic and volatile.
I feel like you only go there so you can like be cool.
you're gonna
Not,
be
I
in
don't know.
bat mitzvah
No,
season
you're
next
right.
year.
Bat mitzvah season.
I don't know.
Like you,
The
I would,
circuit.
I would. There are a lot of them at our school, but
Yeah.
you go to them and you would see all of these people like in
Thank you.
like all these popular people in your grade having a lot of fun and like whatever.
There's
And
wild
you
bat
just-
mitzvahs.
I know, crazy days.
Stuff goes down, you know?
The research, so one thing to know, right, and this is a tip for all of you that I share with the kids all the time. The research says if you're in a group and everyone is up to something and one person doesn't want to go along with the group. So you're in a group, everyone's deciding they're going to drink alcohol, you're the only one who doesn't want to drink. It's only going to take one other person in the group to say you don't have to if you don't want to. You don't need the whole group to agree to feel okay saying no thanks. You literally only need one person. So if you're in a position where you're seeing and experiencing your own peer pressure, look around and find the one other person who also looks a little unsure and be the one who says, well, we don't have to. And they will breathe a sigh of relief and say, oh, okay, good. Neither one of us is going to do it, right? So And so I think that's sort of the piece that, you know, I would like to make sure that the three of you leave with, is that no matter what's happening with your peer groups, you should always do what feels right and safe and comfortable for you. Don't change your core goals. Oh, we got the desserts.
Thank you.
Exciting. You know, you're figuring out, what is my value system? Where are the other people who have it? And the problem is, in high school, everyone's value system keeps changing. Day to day and week to week. Someone you're friends with at the beginning of the school year, by the end of the school year, you've discovered, oh my God, they're totally into that. Not my thing. And now that's changed. So, you know, that's normal. Normal. You know, you keep trying out different friends and just stick with the ones that have the same value system that you do. And as your value systems change, these are the people you check in with, hopefully. And if not, let them know who are the people you do check in with. It might be your friends, and find out which friend. It might be an aunt, an uncle. Maybe it's Aunt Pat. You know, she's pretty cool.
People grow at different rates. And the other thing is sometimes people that you see are being self-destructive, it's those learning lessons, or do something that irritates you, that can, the consequences of that can change. And they will come back to you and say, you know, I like you, and I'm different now, and you were right, and I was wrong.
That's exactly what can sometimes happen.
And how
a friend
important.
that mattered to you goes off and tries something different, but you didn't change, you stayed with your value system, they will always know they can come back to you. So I want to thank all of you for coming and being so open, and I had a great dinner, and I hope you guys did too. For everyone who's watching, I think what I noticed, and to give you guys an impression too, obviously you've got a very open family who's open to different conversations. I think what we learned tonight is it's really good to have conversations about value systems, goals, and visions for the future, because as children develop, your parents' goals and visions for you will end up creating your own, but parents want to be able to continue to have that influence over that. So I think this was a great way to model, how do we check in? I think we had a great conversation about how media influences kids' attitudes and value system. And while we do want to shelter kids sometimes from things, that's our instinct as adults, we also want to use them as an opportunity to process value systems and use them as a chance to check in and find out, so that you get a glimpse of the decision making. And I think we had an opportunity to look at, how do you navigate the tough questions kids ask? And how do you decide what you're willing to share and what you're not? Because in truth, not everyone has a past that they can expose to their kids. And sometimes there's fear and anxiety, and kids' questions can be hard. So I think we modeled a way to kind of pause and have the discussion at a later time. I mean, this was a videotaped family discussion, so there's some parts that we'll follow up privately. So you should remember to do that in your own kitchen table. Sometimes there are things where the conversation can be picked up on the ride to school, which we identified at the beginning was a great opportunity. So thanks everyone for being here. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
It was great. I had a great time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Dr. Suzanne Spencer. I'm the executive producer of the Talk with Your Mouthful podcast.
And I'm Teresa Barros. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I am the star, or at least sitting at the table. I suppose I'm not the star.
You're definitely one of the stars. This time we had a mom and a dad and a family of 3 girls in middle through high school.
Yes, a scary time
That's
for
a
everybody. Definitely.
I think about a dad being in the house with 3 women.
Yeah, that's a lot of girls.
That's a lot of girls.
Yeah, and he said he had come from a family of all boys.
That was interesting,
yeah.
wasn't it? So his experience growing up would have been totally opposite. The situations and experiences that he likely had to encounter in a
Yep.
home full of boys.
Yep, night and day.
Night and day. So what did you think of this one? A lot of the talk was centered around family values.
Yes.
That was so powerful to hear, right? That firm, consistent, fair parenting that we often talk about. That's sort of the foundation
Yeah.
of families and their attitudes around not only discussing substances with their kids, but what they will and won't sort of accept, right? As a rite of passage. So I thought that was powerful.
What I loved most is watching the three girls really supporting each other. I loved talking about the social media and just media influence.
As close as this family clearly was, we still cannot assume that our children are telling us everything.
It's unreasonable to expect that your preteen or teen is going to come to you when they're doing something they shouldn't be. You should demonstrate that you do expect them to, but you need to prepare yourself for they won't. When the parents became aware that their daughter was watching something that really isn't appropriate for a child to be watching, and how do you handle that in a way that says, yes, I'm willing to hear, and by the way, we're going to talk about our value system. And their value system is either influenced primarily by the family or peers. And of course, as parents, you want it to be you, but you have to find the balance.
And I love seeing Dad so involved. Dad was right in there as part and played a huge role in having these sensitive topic conversations with his children. I think this is a powerful episode to see collaborative parenting.
Thank you for watching the Talk with Your Mouth Full podcast.